he goes into the history of the Brotherhood now, and that's so I'll start. That's at 8 minutes 23.
Okay, so the Muslim Brotherhood. Uh, this happened after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, and it was the founder was Hassan al Bana. He was an Egyptian, born in 1906, and he was a teacher in a place called Al-Ismailiyah. It's a place in Egypt. 22-year-old, 22 years old, and he created the sect in 1928. Yeah, created the sect in 1928. And the purpose of the sect was, this is what he
Notice
has
his,
said. At
notice
the
his way,
beginning, he said
the
that we
sect.
want,
Exactly.
They say the group or the movement.
He set his premise in his P brain. He set the premise now.
No, it should not be say created a movement or a group.
Yeah, but that's it. That's what he's going to do.
And he has to prove it as a sect in the proper definition of a sect.
This is, like Bartil. He's built Bartil upon Bartil. His argument.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of this. You'll see a lot of this. By the end, I'll be surprised if you don't swear at him.
Yeah.
there's, because back then, many Muslim countries, they were really away from Islam, and, alcohol was spread everywhere and everything, and nobody really cared about religion. And so he said, man, this is too much. Let's bring back people to Islam. Let's do da'wah. We want to take out the Muslims from the bars to the mosques. Nice, not bad, Mr. Hassan al-Banna. That's good. It's a good cause. Why not? May Allah reward you for that. And then, of course, he gathered some people and started calling people, going on the streets, telling people about Islam, talking, reminding people. Very good, mashallah. And some people gathered up around him and said, we want to help you with this. So he said, okay, so let's all help each other and start doing this da'wah. And from there, things evolved and started developing. And this was really successful. People were listening to him, and he was a very articulate man. He knows how to speak, and he's very good with communication. Yeah. And people would listen to him. And from there, he started doing books, publications, conferences. He even established like offices and centers. And then he called himself, he labeled them, this group, Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin. We are the Muslim Brotherhood. We unite. We are brothers that unite upon Islam. Hello. Problem? No problem. Why? But we go back to the asl. The action is no problem, but creating the sect is a problem. Why? Now, like I said, they established this for this cause. And they made a qanun, a law for the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is online, you can check it out. They said this association does not engage in political matters of any kind, nor in religious disputes. We don't get involved in religious disputes. We don't get involved in political matters. It's got nothing to do. We just want simply people to pray, women to wear hijab, stop doing sin, etc. Beautiful. And it has no affiliation with any particular group of Islam and Muslims at any time or place. We don't, we don't have his partisanship with anyone else. It's just us calling general. Okay, good. Article number 3 says the purpose of the association, the Jama'ah, are limited to improving the condition of Muslims in their social and moral aspects of life. Beautiful. Not bad. Yeah? I kind of like it. 5 years later, these two clauses was removed from their qanun, from their law. And then he started saying some weird things. Not what he started saying. And not at the beginning he started, it got nothing to do with politics and all that. Then in his Majmu'at al-Rasail, he said, I can frankly declare that a Muslim's faith is not complete unless he becomes siyasiyan, political, reevaluating the affairs of the nation, caring for it, and being zealous, tashaddid about it. Every Islamic association must prioritize the political affairs of its nations at the forefront of its agenda. Otherwise, it itself needs to understand the true meaning of Islam. You don't understand Islam unless you get involved into politics. Who in the world said that from the ulama and the scholars and the du'at? Nobody. 1928, when he established this, was it 1928? What did I say? 1928, when he established this, he didn't say that. He said, I want to just do da'wah. I got nothing to do with anything. Then slowly things started clearing up. Things started clearing up with what he wants. Man started gathering people, started getting involved into politics, and getting involved into the political affairs of governments and countries and rulers. And at that time, who was the ruler of Egypt? Al-Malik Farouk. It was a monarchy. It was a king. So he started saying these things, and he removed the clause where it says we got nothing to do with politics. And then he started gathering more people, and then he started talking about governments. He started talking about his government, and they don't know how to lead things, and he don't know how to do this and do that. And so he got involved into politics. As a matter of fact, he made it a priority that this jama'ah, it's not about da'wah, it's about politics. But it started as a cloak, as a ghita, covered. It's a da'wah, covered da'wah, but inside it's political. It's a political movement and a faction.
Oh, okay.
Then
Mhm.
this
Yeah, feel free to interject, inshallah.
No, no, sir. So then what? So what? First
So
of all, the history this way, I'm not aware about like that, but let's assume it is true. That initially did not have this, because I think from day one he said this is a da'wah, this is a طريقة صوفية, this is da'wah siyasiyya, this حركة jihadiyya, and so on. So he had all these things like a salad, and there's many people criticize that because you have to have certain focus, maybe that. So that's my understanding. I don't think he started that with the two articles he claimed they were there and they were removed. Maybe he's lying, but we can check history. And these two articles, if they're in original publication, there must be some record of them somewhere in some archives. That's number one. But let's assume that they started as what he called da'wah. Da'wah to Islam, meaning da'wah to Islam. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, la ilaha illallah entail, according to your Imam Muhammad Rahab, and also to the Quran, I know that you have to reject Taghut. ما يؤمن بالله ويكفر بالطاغوت. Reject the tyranny, the Taghut. The Taghut is usually Muhammad Rahab defined that anyone who is obeyed and worshipped beside Allah. That's again a mistake, because they make a difference between obeying and worship. Now the Wahhabis in the recent teaching books in Saudi Arabia, they drop that and say obeyed, because they define it worship as obedience, not anymore sujood and ruku'. They corrected that blatant mistake, starting with correcting, but silently, without announcing that we made a blunder in time past, we are correcting. This is shows the level of dishonesty and sneakiness of these people. But that's not our issue today. So, but the structure of the word and so on, al-taghut and condemning of taghut, mean that it must be a person who was conscious. It's not just a stone or something like that, because the stone does not call you to worship him, does not give you any command. So it must be the taghut, must be the kings and so on, who think they can rule whatever they want. And the Quran gives example of these. The one who was disputed with Ibrahim about his Lord, and Ibrahim defeated him blatantly with evidences. Other places where argument with kings resulted in kings going into ballistic and committing atrocities like Pharaoh and so on, until he drowned, etc., etc. So this is the Taghut, the one who tells the people, I have the right, I can enact laws. That's the Taghut. You have to reject that and oppose it. So it's part of Islam, part of Tawheed, according to Muhammad Wahab, according to the Quran. But Muhammad Wahab does it in a, let's say, hand waving, not clear way, not sharp way. But if you do it sharply, it's clear that anyone who claims that anyone has the right of legislation, intrinsic by his own will is law, is definitely a taghut, unless it is Allah, the external majestic, who has this right by virtue of his necessary existence and sovereignty. There's no other option. Is the only one who has the right by intrinsic necessity is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyone else has no right of command or any right of fundamental ownership, because it's impossible. It can't be constructed, because everything else is created by Allah. Everything else is owned by Allah. Everything is under the control of Allah. So how can everything else have the right of it, intrinsically defining good and evil? It's not possible. It's rationally impossible. Even this cannot be transferred to anybody. Allah can say, I transfer this power to someone else. It's not possible. It's not transferable. It's like say, Allah, I will transfer my life to someone. This someone become eternal living. That's not possible. This divine power does not even accede to that. It's a rational, logical impossibility. Exactly, if someone can Allah annihilate himself, that's not possible. It's all nonsensical question, nonsensical assumption. So if we make it precise like that, we did in the book of Tawheed, so it's clear that rejecting Taghut and rejecting the sovereignty of anyone beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. So part of Islam, fundamental part, is that rejecting anyone who claims he has the right of legislation. He may have the right to deduce from the revelation and apply for revelation and choose for the revelation, yeah. And that's what religion is for, because Allah will not write books and write a yearly budget or 5 year development programs. No, He won't do that. But in that, they refer to what Allah has revealed. If they don't refer, they are Taghut. So that's part of Islam. So what means da'wah to Islam? What is Islam then? What does not make any sense. Let's assume Hassan al Bana originally was Darwish because he was have Sufi inclination. By the way, he's from a house of knowledge. His father, Abdurrahman al Bana, al-Sa'ati al Bana, is the one who organized the Musnad of Ahmad ibn Hanbal in the so-called Fath al-Rabbani, بترتيب Musnad ibn Ahmad. So the Musnad in most people's hand is the organized in section and chapters, because the Musnad originally organized in line of narration. Musnad, Sahabi, and all the nation of the Sahabi and other Sahabi, not on topics. Reorganized in topics is done by the father of Hassan al Bana. This Abdurrahman al Bana is the father of Hassan al Bana. So he's from the house of knowledgeable people. So he's, even if he was 23 years old, he is from a household from childhood, this house of knowledge and of scholarship and of piety. So that's it. So he mentioned his age just to tell people, this is just a young man who did not study. No. He's born in a house of knowledge and house of piety and house of devotion. And his intelligence and his characteristics shows clearly that he absorbed that. So let's assume he started da'wah with these 2 articles. Let's assume he's telling the truth. Okay. Along the way, he noticed that this is deficient. That's not Islam. For example, Tabligh Jama'at does not have these 2, essentially complying with these 2 articles. That's what they are doing with Tabligh Jama'at. They're just taking the people from the bars into the masjid. And they say that clearly. That's our da'wah is restricted to that. They didn't say Islam is restricted to that. When Tabligh Jama'at was invited to a conference in America in the late 80s of the last century, 1989 or something like that. I was not an American fan, but I was visiting and people reported that to me. A conference mostly sponsored by Hizb ut-Tahrir at that time. Muslim Brotherhood was invited to say how to establish Khilafah or how to get Islam back into political life. Jama'at was invited. They did not come, but they sent a letter praising everyone and thanking them for the effort. Say, listen, we are not working in that area. We don't have any program to re-establish Khilafah. We have focused and limited ourselves to get the people from the bars and the clubs into the masjid. After that, you take over and do the job. So they admitted clearly, we are limited to that. We are limited to getting but they said not limited to da'wah. We're limited to taking people from the bars and the clubs into the masjid. That's it. When they stop drinking and stop having drugs and stop having haram sex, etc., then they are having basic Islam in themselves, in the personal level. Then what is regarding society and state and all these other things, you are more qualified to do the rest. So let's assume at the time there was no Tabligh Jama'at yet. I think established around the same time like Muslim Brotherhood, they were still in India. They didn't go out. So Hassan al Bana recognized that these 2 articles, if they were articles really according to this Faris al-Himar, if they really existed and he's not lying, let's assume he's not lying, and we can verify that through some archive. If that's true, then Hassan al Bana recognized this is a deficient call, and the situation of Muslims want more than that. The Khilafah was notice that he said the Ottoman Empire, meaning he does not recognize as Khilafah without saying why he's not an Khilafah or saying justification. He's just using a code language. But independent of that, the station of Muslim requires more than just getting them from the club to the masjid. They need to be politically active. They need to be accounting the government. And at that time, the government in Egypt was a so-called constitutional monarchy. There was a parliament. There were elections. There were secular groups. There were nationalistic groups, because the whole world was going along the channels of nationalism, socialism, and things like that. That was the fashion of the time in the 20s and in the 10s and the late 19th century. That was the fashion. So that but parties were most because Egypt was occupied essentially under British control. So they were liberation groups who want to finish their occupation, looking only for independence. They were the Sa'di, for example, Sa'diyin, Wafd party, etc. So there were various parties who are not based on Islam. Some of them are adopting clear Kufr. So why should Hassan al Bana be blamed to get involved in politics? Like any other Muslim, even if they got the Wafdi and Sa'di as Muslims who went astray because they have barely any knowledge, they're simple-minded, okay, fine. Then go and correct them. And to correct them, you have to be in parliament, you have to be in the political domain. Just out of practical reasons. Besides, obviously, the obligation to be there, I will discuss later. The obligation of commanding good and forbidding evil and accounting ruler is fundamental. When this Faris al does not understand it. Even he mentioned that Muslims were far away from Islam, hijab and khamr. That's not a far away from Islam. That's part of it in the personal level. They were already far away from Islam in the ruling system, in applied kufr in many areas, in usury banking, and other more catastrophic things. But this man is a jahil. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's trying to playing around to do tadlis.
Anyway, it's nefarious. Let's be honest. So UAE Islam is this. UAE Islam is this secularized version of Islam where you just shut up and listen to the ruler. Ruler does whatever he wants. You have no recourse. You have to take your hands, tie them, put them behind your back. No matter what he does, you say 1,000 thanks. Oh yes, yes, yes sir, yes sir, like a pajita. That's what this is his Islam.
Clear. No, that's another type of kufr, but they give it the name of Islam to fool the common Muslim. It's not Islam.
It's one without Amr bil Ma'ruf. It's secularized. This is what their end game is, and he's going to go into the favorite.
It's a straightforward kufr. It's not, but it has nothing to do with Amr Ma'ruf. That the ruler has these authority and rights is a clear kufr. Is a Taghut. Is believing in Taghut. And this, let me give you a story. Even before, the Islamic external appearance of Islam was much stronger and much more prevalent, even in very small details. In the time of Hajjaj and Bani Umayyah, time Bani Marwan. After Hajjaj died, he died in 95. Allah broke his back in the age of 55 because he was born in the year 40 and died in 95, so 55 years old. And the two of the younger followers, disputed. One called Dar al-Marhabi and another one, the narrator, I don't remember his name. So they have dispute. Dar al-Marhabi said Hajjaj is a mu'min, is a Muslim. And the other one said, no, he's a kafir. So they decided to go to Imam Sha'abi. Imam Sha'abi he's a faqih, but he's mostly a narrator. And he's one of the most excellent narrators you could even imagine in history, especially in that generation. I think he's the narrator number one of the 1st century, the top one in exactness and thoroughness. So they went to Sha'abi. That's about a person, which I don't like. I prefer about systems. So at that time, these things were not yet crystallized and analyzed properly. So they went to, and they say, Sheikh, to I think he's Kunya Abu Abdullah. The Dhar claims, I say that Hajjaj is kafir, and Dhar al-Marhabi said, I still remember his name because Dhar means ant, the ant al-Marhabi. Said Hajjaj was mu'min. So the narrator said, he said to Dhar al-Marhabi, say, you see that Hajjaj is a mu'min? Dhar al-Marhabi said, yes. Say, you are absolutely right. I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he's a mu'min with Taghut kafir billah al-azim. He believes in Taghut and he's rejected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning he's a kafir. So even at that time, Amalak al-Hajjaj was classified as by a scholar of the weight of Sha'abi. Sha'abi is a very, very, very heavyweight. I'm not claiming he's the first rank scholar of fiqh and so deep understanding. But in matter of narration and summarizing the narration, he was not devoted to fiqh, let us say. In matter of the issues of fiqh, he discussed, he's as good as anybody else or he was superior. But he did not do much in that direction. His main job was narration and exactness and so on. So he classified Hajjaj as a kafir. Straightforward, without any issue. Because he was giving himself the right to classify people and declaring things to be halal and haram according to his desire, according to his wishes, not according what dictated by Quran and Sunnah, or according his Khalifa in Damascus does, or according of some mistakes of Uthman. That's it. So that's absolutely not acceptable. That's making him Taghut. So he's mu'min bil Taghut, kafir billah al-azim, according to Sha'abi. So this is an old issue. It's nothing new. But as Faris al-Himar does not know that. Or if he knows it, he's covering it up. That's it. So the whole premise is that they were fine and everything is beautiful and so on. It's not beautiful. What they're calling for initially, if it is true that they don't have that, they started the wrong way and they recognize there's a mistake. Did they correct it properly and did the right thing? Maybe they did the right thing in part and part mistakes, which need to be corrected, but corrected on ground of analyzing Quran and Sunnah and the correct behavior under Kufr rule. That's the way to go. There's no other way to go. Not that they don't interact politically. What give us the Saudi party and the Wafd party and the other parties the right to work politically under the title of nationalism, patriotism, ending British occupation, etc., 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 under the wing of the king, giving them the right to do that and deprive the other common Muslim who are member of this initially Sufi or just simple-minded da'wah to also participate and criticize and make demands like any other Muslim. Who gives these the people right and who is not the right?
They want to go back to the Sheikh. They want to go back to the Salaf of the British monarchy. Not Islamic Salaf. They want to go to their own Salaf for this divine right of kings. Absolute prima nocte concubines. He wants to become us to be concubines for these regimes. Okay, now I'll carry on inshallah. So this is 14 minutes in, and he's going to go in a few minutes to Aqidah, and he's going to go to subservience of rulers and then Aqidah. You know, the favorite ones.
Peaceful da'wah turned into extremism. He said, and we will, he said this in his Majmu' al-Rasail. He said, we will address our call, our da'wah, to the officials, including leaders of the country and its chiefs and its ministers and its rulers, its sheikhs and its representatives and its parties. And we will invite them to our way. Not we abide to them. No, no, no. You are invited to my way. وين السمع والطاعة؟ وين obey and listen؟ وين ضرب ظهرك وأخذ مالك؟ You have to listen and obey to the ruler, even if he is an Ethiopian, even if he is Habashi, that even if he transgresses, you have to obey him without, of course, without sin. You don't obey in sin. But if he's an oppressor, you have to do sabr. What happened? لا. You are invited to my way. طيب, demand that they lead this Muslim country. They demand, not the ruler demands. No, I will demand on the ruler. Demand that they lead this Muslim country, especially the leader of Islamic nations, to this. And then what did he say? If they respond to the call.
Now the cat is out of the sack, as they say. His claim, where is obey the ruler within ضرب ظهرك? First of all, this applies fundamentally to a ruler who is from us. A ruler who is from us, because the ayah is clear. أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا أولي الأمر منكم فإن تنازعتم. Let's leave وإن تنازعتم now. منكم, from you, not from outside you. So it does not apply to a kafir ruler or the one who is ruling by kufr openly and publicly. Secondly, he shows conveniency to ignore the hadith of al-Kufr al-Buwah, which is in Bukhari. And Muslim also, but in Bukhari. Bukhari concerning obedience to Lord, but it brought only one hadith. It did not bring the hadith of Salama. He did not like the hadith of Salama, and he's right not to like it, because it is Hassan al Basri from a guy, I don't remember his name, from Salama. With Ana. Hassan al Basri is mudallis. If he said an, there's a question mark. Secondly, most likely the man between Hassan al Basri and Salama, I will remember his name in a minute. This one is at best Saduq. I checked his hadith, has about 14 hadith. 4 of them are very questionable and obscure meaning-wise. So there's a question mark about this man. So Bukhari recognized that he cannot rely on this hadith. There's another hadith, which the hadith of خيار أئمتكم الذين تحبونهم, the best of your imams, the one you love and they love you, etc. You pray for them, they pray for you, and the worst are the one which you hate and they hate you, and you curse them and they curse you. And then someone asked Messenger Allah, if it comes to that level, should we not fight them or kill them? He said, no, as long as they establish prayer, something like that. And whoever sees the Imam is doing ma'asiyah, etc., should obey and things like that. That's only in Muslim, but not in Bukhari. And I think Bukhari was right because he doubted some of the narrators there that you can rely on them, especially Muslim ibn Qarada. It seems to be Muslim ibn Qarada as described in the one of chain of the narration, being the uncle of, or the Sahabi who is narrator from Messenger Allah being his uncle, is most likely a false description. Muslim ibn Qarada is most likely a brother-in-law of Muawiyah. The moment you see Muawiyah, the red flag is out. There's a danger there of fabrication and lies. So it could be fabricated to let Muawiyah pass somehow. So Bukhari avoided these two. So he's mentioning that. Al-Hadith in ضرب ظهرك كلامك most likely is also batil in this wording. Anyway, that's number one. But in any case, the issue of that where obey and sabr and so on is not true. Then we have the following. Check our single research called exterminating, dealing with deviant imams and exterminating them. That's one single research about the hadith, which says clearly the hadith in full length is the following. Let me mention it again because of utmost importance. They have been hidden everywhere in the books. Nobody dared publish it because if you dare quote it or put it in a book, usually you face execution from some tyrants. And it happened really to Sharik al-Qadi. He was executed by Mahdi, the Mahdi Abbasi, the one called Mahdi, who is not a Mahdi, the opposite of Mahdi, the misguided, who was named Mahdi by mistake. This hadith says, in its full length, as narrated by Anas ibn Malik, Anas ibn Malik, Thawban, and Nu'man ibn Bashir, and Hani ibn Abi Talib. So it's from 4 Sahaba, not from only one. Come on, be careful. The nation of Anas ibn Malik says, we were in a house, and the Messenger of Allah came to the door and saw that they were all Quraish. He said, are all of you from Quraish? They said, yeah, but we have the sons, some of the sons of our sisters from another tribe, the fathers of the tribe, and some of our freed slaves, Mawali. The Messenger of Allah said first, Ibn Ukht al-Qawm minhum, the son of your sister, is from you, belongs to you also, is regarded as one of you, besides being from the other tribe also, that's by genealogy through the mother, is also make you part of the tribe. So you can say, I am from Quraysh if your mother is from Quraysh. It's perfectly fine. That's number one. And most Ahl al-Bayt are from Ahl al-Bayt through Fatima, through a woman, not from her. That's number one, from Al-Nabi. Secondly, the Mawla, the freed slave, and the one who is allied is also from the people. The moment you are allied with the people or settle in them and take their citizenship, you become one of them. So you can say, I'm Quraishi, although you are originally Chinese. But you become allied with Quraish, you are a Quraishi now. That's it. That's the first rule. Forget about that. That's not our issue there. Then say, listen, I tell you, the Imam will be from Quraysh. The Imam in Quraysh. That it's a khabar about the future, which is the evidence of Prophet ﷺ, show from the rest of the hadith and from another hadith. ما إذا, they will be legitimately so. ما إذا, إذا حكموا عدلوا. If they rule with justice. Number one. طيب. وإذا استرحموا رحموا. If they ask for mercy at least. They may be not merciful to initiate to start with, but if they ask for mercy, where mercy is possible, like for example, if they ask to commute ahad cannot be commuted, but anything else, mercy is possible, they should grant mercy. And the third one, if they promise or make a covenant, they don't break. Breaking promise will take you off the imamah. فمن لم يفعل ذلك منهم, whoever does not do that from them, فعليه لعنة الله والملائكة والناس أجمعين. Allah's cares and the cares of the angels and the cares of all humans on him. That you find everywhere, even in Musnad Ahmad bin Hanbal. Okay? History. But you don't find the dangerous tale What is the dangerous tale, which you find in these four narrations in secondary books, with the as excellent isnad as you could imagine? What is the dangerous tale saying? Does it say, فَإِن لَمْ يَفْعَلُوا? Okay, like Allah scares on them. That's Yawm al-Qiyamah will be settled. Is there anything you can do in dunya for them? Yes. فَإِن لَمْ يَفْعَلُوا, if they don't rule with justice, grant mercy and so on, فَضَعُوا سيوفكم على عواتقكم وأبيدوا خبرهم. Take your sword on your shoulder, meaning become an organized army and exterminate them. So no sabr. If these three are broken, there's sabr is not indicated. Sabr meaning you are working for your own annihilation and degradation. How do we know that? Continue with the tail, second tail. فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا, if you don't do that, what will happen to you? You will be disgraced and you will be low. What the hadith says, فَكُونُوا حَرَّثِينَ أَشْقِيَاءَ تَأْكُلُوا مِنْ. Be then serfs like those in the, because Arabia does not have serfs. They don't have a feudal system. But Sham, under the Roman Empire, the Roman Byzantine Empire, the farmer and so on were essentially owned by the landlord. Yeah, the feudal system like in Europe, and they are slaves. And they just live from their toil. They toil for their food and so on. The slave master, the feudal lord, give them enough to survive until next year. And they toil and for the next year and so on, for the rest of their life. They will be, then be happy to be lowly serfs, be slaves. That's it. That's what you will get. You will be slave. If you don't, what you said, exterminate them, you will. So sabr is not indicated there. And it's narrated by four of the Sahaba. And we have the research dedicated to that. قتال المنحرفين من الإمة وإبادة خضرائهم. Fighting against the deviant rulers and exterminating them. That's in Arabic and translation. So that's one. So sabr is not like that, what he claims. And secondly, the hadith, he ضرب ظهرك and so on, is nonsense. Most likely is nonsense and can be disputed. And the only one which can be carried along with some additional notes and so on, is the hadith of Ubadah ibn al-Samit in Bukhari about a Kufr of Buwah. You obey and listen unless you see an evident Kufr for which you have an evidence from the book of Allah. Or, in other words, unless he commands you publicly with a disobedience to Allah or a ma'asiyah, with haram, publicly, either leaving a wajib or committing a haram. Publicly, as a public order, not privately. Privately, he can tell you, take this glass of khamr and drink. That's not the issue. Public, as a ruler. Buwah, public, in his capacity as a ruler. Then this is kufr buwah, and then there's no obedience and no acceptance. It does specify to fight them and so on, but it says, the hadith says, وَأَلَّا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ. We don't dispute with the ruler. What meaning dispute with the ruler? Dispute with the ruler means dispute with the sword. The only way to dispute with the ruler is that. It may start with disputing with him and going to courts and things like that, but ultimately, if the dispute is not settled properly by courts or he rejects the court's decision, then the sword must be pulled and he must be removed by force.
Also, I mean,
that's by implication, but the hadith of Quraish is clear, straightforward. And many other hadith also in Muhasabat al-Hukam, we have the master hadith of Ka'b ibn Ujra rated by 5 Sahabi, and which is clear that there will be rulers with certain characteristic which is very nasty, like they say what they are not commanded to say, and they promise and not fulfill their promise. They give themselves rights which they don't give to you, etc. Allah say, whoever struggle against them with his hand, which includes also with the sword, is a believer. Who cannot do that and struggle against them with his tongue is a believer, and who cannot that, he must struggle with them with his heart. If he doesn't do that, he's not a believer anymore. There's no iman left after that. So this is all well established, clear by tawatur. But we don't need even these hadith. Go just to the Quran. when Allah says لعن الذين كفروا من إسرائيل على لسان داود وعيسى بن مريم ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوه لبئس ما كانوا يفعلون. The disbeliever and the Bani Israel were cursed on the tongue of Dawood and Isa ibn Maryam. Now Dawood, you could say a king, but he's a king prophet. But Isa ibn Maryam was not a king. He's just a prophet and a messenger. for this disobedience. What is the reason for their case? كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوا لبئس ما كانوا يفعلون ترى كثير منهم يتولون الذين كفروا. So they were not commanding each other, prohibiting each other for committing sin. What miserable deed they were committing. And then continue. ترى كثير منهم يتولون الذين كفروا. You see, many of them make allegiance and alliance to the disbelievers. لبئس ما قدمت لهم أنفسهم وفي العذاب هم خالدون. What miserable price they sold themselves for, and they will be eternally in the fire. Apply that to the Emirates, Mr. Faris al-Himar. This is the way to play with the people's mind. You get a bit of hadith here, a tale of hadith here, and ignore the hadith mutawatir, ignore even the Quran. Why Bani Israel has been cursed on the tongue of Dawood and Isa ibn Maryam? Or tell us clearly this is all Muhammad has invented and so on. Then we call God, go and read Karl Marx.
Give it time, that's what they will do. UAE will do that.
And then we'll use the guillotine to cut your neck and the neck of your masters, according to the French Revolution slogan. Hang the last prince with the distance of the last priest or opposite.
Inshallah.
So, stop this nonsense, Mr. Faris al-Himar. Acknowledge that you are Himar and stay home until you learn. Or
get nice stables.
Yeah.
Get nice stables. Yeah. Get some peas and carrots, whatever they eat. Okay, now I'll carry on. There's plenty more to object to.
And follow the path to the goal, we will support them. If they don't, Hassan, what will happen? Otherwise, we are at war with every leader, party chief, and organization that does not work to support Islam, not Islam, their Islam, their way. Be careful. All their da'wahs, they call themselves, and any action they do, they call it Islam. Why do they do that?
Sorry, is that Sheikh?
I said, well, we have the Quran and Sunnah. We just mentioned what to do. Say what we can do.
Because if you say, I don't want to go, you don't want Islam? You're against Islam. And we've heard this before. Yeah? Anybody who's against the Muslim Brotherhood is against Islam. No, I just don't agree with your way because your way is not actually Islamic. No, this is Islam, whether you like it or not. A'udhu billah. But anyways, and then they said, that does not work and support Islam and does not try to restore the rule and glory of Islam. We will declare an uncompromised enmity. Enmity, yani, ada, you are my enemy. Until God decides between us and our people with truth, and He is the best of conquerors. Yani, He declared war. My way, or I'm going to declare war on you. Well, as we know, there was a big revolution with the Muslim Brotherhood and the army and the Malik Farouk.
No, stop. The army has nothing to do with the Muslim Brotherhood whatsoever. It says we know now how it was concocted. As far as Al-Hamar does not know that and will never know something like that. But leave these deep analysis of political affairs. The claim that we declare enmity and so on, this is all metaphorical in the sense that we disassociate with these people exactly like Ibrahim told his people and his father's son, ظهر بين بينكم العداوة والبغضاء أبدا حتى تؤمنوا بالله. Did Ibrahim fight his own people? Never. He migrated. But he disassociated with them. He broke the relation with them. And that's what they are saying, which is perfectly fine. If they reject Islam in a manifest way, and actually the Muslim world are not to be lenient to the rulers in the sense that cooperated the rulers who some of them are having things which are bordering or clear Kufr, and they still cooperated. That's one of the main critics to them rather than the opposite. So he's trying to create something which does not exist. Even in time of the king, they did not do any revolution, and the army is completely independent. Some of the armies may have been part-time in the Muslim Brotherhood for some time, but they did not do the coup d'etat as the Muslim Brotherhood coup d'etat. No. At all. It's related to the issue of Palestine, related to the power struggle between world powers who want to inherit each other and take the colonies of each other, like America want to expel Britain out of the colonies and inherit the world, etc. That has nothing to do with Islam Muslim Brotherhood to any greater extent. Barely anything like that. That's the opposite. So that's just even this. Here, he's definitely a fake history. But that he doesn't understand the real history properly, you don't expect. Most people don't, even Muslim Brotherhood do not understand. Until now, they cannot conceive that Abdel Nasser has been, and his coup d'etat is actually managed and remotely controlled by the CIA, at least with a faction of the CIA.
There's a phrase, what's it? Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. This donkey wants to make a story. He wants to build a narrative, wants to give a story tale to build his premise, which is nothing. There's nothing. Not even dalil, not historical fact, not even analysis. And you'll see much worse than this. This nefarious scumbag
was overthrown, and then they put Jamal Abdel Nasser, and Jamal Abdel Nasser was actually part of the Muslim Brotherhood. But what did he do? He used them to take rulership, and then what did he do? He said, "Who are you guys? No, I'm not going to do this," because they came to him, and this is on YouTube. You can watch it. They came to him and said, "Oh, okay, now you're a ruler. Yalla, now apply this, and we have to do this, and you have to do that." He said, "Wait. Who's the ruler? Me or you? Yalla. No. I got no time for this. Okay, I got a country to run. Muslim Brotherhood." And anyways, he started arresting them, and he started attacking them, and it went sideways. I don't want to get into the details of this. There's a lot of details, طبعا. And they tried to assassinate him, and they killed the minister, Nagrashi, one of the minister of Interior.
That's not true. Nagrashi is killed earlier, and most likely is not Muslim Brotherhood, but could be Muslim Brotherhood because Nagrashi was the prime minister when Hassan al Bana was assassinated. And maybe one of the Shabab Muslim Brotherhood, as a revenge, killed Nakrashi, maybe. But this is well before the revolution, years before the revolution. So this guy does not know Tito. He's talking with his ass, not with his mouth. Anyway, so I think we should skip that. This is just...
Let's carry on. Because look, let's just carry on because there's plenty. Because I want to go through the entire thread so that there's none of these dogs can say anything. They have no hole to hide under, no crevice, no sphincter to hide in.
They killed him. They assassinated in his office. Yeah, and so they are, they start getting really physical, as he said. This is all facts. I'm not like making this up. Yeah, and they killed some
lies.
Even in the revolutions. Also, they killed many police officers, many people, many officials. Allah al-Musta'an.
No. The Egyptian revolution praises itself generally that there's a white revolution, no bloodshed. Almost nobody was killed. Almost nobody. Absolutely nobody, as far as I know. They may be in the moment of taking over, maybe one guard was shot or something, but even that is questionable. Someone could now ask ChatGPT or DeepSeek how many people were killed during the coup d'etat of Muhammad Najib, but it was not Abdel Nasser even in the front. It was Muhammad Najib. You will check and you will find out. Barely any. One of the whitest possible white revolution. Some even leftists say, which kind of revolution? They call this a coup d'etat. It's not a revolution. Because the revolution, there must be bloodshed. Because the class against class, a certain section of the population against section of the population. That's for them, the leftists. Because they believe in dialectic materialism and the dialectic and the class struggle and so on. Then must be some bloodshed. So the revolution is worth its name. It must be red. It must be a red revolution. What revolution? What does the Arabic revolution? It's essentially a coup d'etat. And we know now with sufficient information that at least a wing of the CIA was behind that. So, but independent of the CIA, as far as I know, I was a child. Obviously, I was not conscious about these details. I remember ourselves carrying candles and singing for Muhammad Najib after the coup d'etat and so on, as small kids. I was at the time maybe 6-7 years, so I'm not conscious about these things. But I don't remember of any killing or anything like that, or any emergency situation in the street. Nothing has happened. At least they say, they have been. The king has been deposed, and we came out singing for Muhammad Najib. That's it. Nothing. Life was going normally 100%. No comparison to, for example, the several years later what happened in Iraq with killing and sahel and pulling people from their legs behind cars and things like that. What happened in Iraq is way more brutal than what happened in Egypt. Even the king itself, the whole royal family, nobody was touched Farouk himself was accompanied gracefully to the ship to go to Italy, to Napoli, where he lived until he died there, enjoying himself at the beach most of the time. I don't know what this man is talking about.
Whatever his handlers tell him to. Let's face it. Why let the truth get in the way of a story? It's good. Let this donkey provide his own ammunition. So even the dumbest madkhali that listens to this may have a spark between two neurons and say, oh, maybe I should question this. Let's see.
This is with regards to a bit of history and how it started. Yeah, how it started. What is their aqidah? They say they are Muslim Brotherhood. And they are calling to da'wah, صح? Let me just drink a little bit. It's getting short.
The favorite one in it, Aqidah.
What's their aqidah? What did they call for? They have no aqidah. Basically, they don't see aqidah as a priority. They don't see the aqidah of Muslimin, la ilaha illallah, and that you worship Allah and you understand what worshipping is, and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Asma' wal-Sifat, Sunnah.
Graves, yeah.
Yeah, we know this. It's the bullshit again, the standard. Now he comes to that.
That's anyway, it's a smokescreen, isn't it? It's always a smokescreen. It's a smokescreen, isn't it? It's always the same thing. But that's good.
He may be sincerely a donkey in that case.
I don't know. I think he's probably a patient.
And also your Saudi Wahhabi, they changed now in the books. That's why I've been informed by someone who graduated recently from Saudi Arabia. Recently, like 10, 15 years ago. I'm out of Saudi Arabia since 35 years. After we left, it seems to be that from time to time they revamp the books and find weak hadith, they take it out and so on. So they're trying to improve the books somehow. And then he said the definition for ibadah now, it is ibadah is equal ta'a, obedience, which is a much better definition than before. That ibadah is sujood and ruk'ah and kissing stones and prostration and so on. This is the rubbish. So, and this means essentially they have given up on rububiyyah, uluhiyyah and so on. Whether they don't give it up formally, the next version will be most likely forsaken that. Almost certainly. So, what do you mean with that? Do you want to explain what you mean? You cannot explain it better than Ibn Taymiyyah and Abdul Wahhab, who sharpened it to the level of showing its internal contradiction. That's it. So what do they care about Muslims? They say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. In a straightforward, like the Quran and Sunnah clearly indicates. That's all what is needed from any Muslim. If you mean the fine points, which you claim to be fine points, many of them have been refuted. Other things are so obvious that nobody disputing about them anyway. Any dispute is there is the issue, what is the limitation of obedience to anybody except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And the answer is very clear. No obedience to anybody except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intrinsically. Anybody else must have a license from Allah to be obeyed. Anybody else has no right to obedience, except if Allah allows that. That's it. Straightforward, simple, period. You don't create it from your imagination something. No. Everything in the inexistent, except the necessary existing eternal, exalted being, His Majesty, everything is a slave and equal to any other slave. No one has a command or superiority or inferiority to another one. All of them at the same level. Now, from these certain messengers are elected, Allah ordered to obey them, like His obedience, because He's made them infallible. So their command is His command. Exclude the messengers and the prophets because of infallibility. Anybody else, nothing. Now the Quran says clearly about the rulers, but He says clearly, now we come to the rulers. Obey Allah and obey His messenger. You're repeating the word obey here. And then the rulers are just adjunced by what will amri minkum. They'll say obey all amri minkum. They don't even deserve a new command of obey. It's just as a footnote to the obeying of the messenger. فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ. If you dispute about anything, meaning it can happen, is naturally going to happen. It does not say don't dispute. They say فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ, because تنازع will happen. Because these in charge are not infallible. And there will be disagreement. It's natural. It's natural there will be disagreement. By necessity of reason and the universe. The nature of the universe is a testing universe. Allah will instigate disagreement if necessary. So test you. Test the ruler and test you. If you obey or disobey, if you apply the law or don't apply the law. What to do? فَرُدُوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولُهُ. Refer it back to Allah and His Messenger. إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر. ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا. If you believe in Allah, there is refer to Allah and His Messenger. The ruler did something. For example, I give you a trivial example that happened to Umar. Umar stood in the pulpit for Jum'ah, and then the usual take a term in the second khutbah or something, or the first, maybe the khutbah. Usually the Imam say, اتقوا الله, be fear of Allah, اسمعوا وأطيعوا. A man stood say, لا نسمع ولا نطيع. We don't listen, we don't obey. Meaning اسمع وأطيعوا لي as Imam to the leader. A man said, why? First of all. A man said, listen, there were pieces of fabrics coming, and you cut it in pieces suitable for one dress for each man. But clearly the dress you are wearing is so long and so big, you gave yourself a bigger piece than each one of us. What's the authority which gives you the right to have a bigger piece than anybody else? It should be equal. You are the only one getting that. If you give, for example, the Sabiqeen al-Awwalin or the people of Badr, we say, okay, because they are Badri, they have a special status, fine. But here, what is make you special status? Or is there an authority that the head of state can have a bigger piece? He said, Abdullah ibn Umar, addressing his son, are you here? Say, stand and tell him. Abdullah Umar stood say, my father is a man of wide shoulder because he was a wrestler in Jahiliyyah, or a wrestler, very big, tough guy. And that piece was not sufficient for him. Like you have noticed, most of you have only one piece because they have the dress was of two top piece and bottom piece. It's sufficient only one. That was not enough for him. So he asked me to give him my piece so he would have a full dress. I gave it to him. So his son gave him that, his share. And the man who said that said, now we listen and obey. Clearly correct. So he disputed with Umar. How come that you have that? Give me an explanation. Dispute does not mean you have the arrow and kill him right away. That's not the way dispute goes in human society, in rational human beings. How? But he has the right to ask. And Umar didn't say, how do you dare asking? No. Or anyone jumping from the side of the mosque, taking the man in custody. Absolutely none. Then Umar said, yeah, I have a reply for that. No, there's no authority for me to get more. Abdullah ibn Umar answered him. Abdullah said, this is my piece. And this is actually systematic for Umar. Anything short he gets, he will supplement by the poor Abdullah ibn Umar. Using his fatherly power to confiscate with Abdullah ibn Umar because Abdullah Umar was a softy, so he take from him. They can manage themselves. That's nothing to do with being head of state, giving himself more. He gave himself exactly like anybody else. But supplement for his son, that's fine, that's between them. None of our business. And the man said clearly, now we listen and obey. So there was a dispute. And what I refer to the Book of Allah. He asked, give me an evidence for that. Why did you have more than anybody? Say, the Book of Allah said, actually, I didn't give it to, I didn't do it. It's my son. I asked my son and he gave it to me. And I have the right to ask my son. He has the right to ask me. No problem between us. We are family. Part of father-son relation, which is sanctioned by the Book of Allah. Fine. It doesn't say the Book of Allah say that. It's the obvious. Things like that, so trivial. You don't need to invoke the ayah or hadith there. But it's clearly with the back term. And he said, and I asked Abdullah ibn Umar to give me as a gift. He did not take it by force. He's not allowed to take on Islam by force. Certainly not. No, he said, استوهبت فوهبني. That's it. Perfectly covered by the Book of Allah. They did not say that Genghis Khan does the same. That will be referring to not the Book of Allah. That will be kufr. No. You see my point? So that's it. So the obedience to law is sanctioned by this ayah, and just clarify how to deal with any dispute, because dispute is inevitably happen. It must happen. Because anybody except Allah and His Messenger, the messengers by Allah making him infallible and giving this authority. It's not that they legislate on their intrinsically. His legislation put in their mouth. That's it. It's actually Allah legislating, but through their mouth. That's it.
I mean, the new UAE Islam, which is actually, you could say, does meet closer to the definition of a sect, is the new version with absolute authority.
It's clear kufr. It's
kufr,
clear.
yeah.
It's clearly
Okay,
kufr.
I'll carry on. Sure, there's some things we can skip over, but we'll just go through it. I can always edit it to spare the listener.
It's actually it's said clearly from this Mazrui, who said the man who heading a department, which many journalists call the department of slandering the dignity of other people, is like an intelligence department connected directly to Muhammad bin Zayed, MBZ. What did he say in the Taghut? I remember seeing it with my own eyes when I was still seeing very well. He said, in this matter and so on, will not allow anything to be above the state. The state is the supreme one. Everyone has to submit to the state. This is clear kufr. It's clear kufr. The statement itself is a statement of kufr. The state is above everything, including religion. That's a statement of utter kufr. Directly. Mazrui. Hamad al-Mazrui. Intelligence chief of a certain department of intelligence connected directly to the MBZ. So these people are directly and clearly doing kufr, straightforward and blatant kufr, without any discussion.
Faris, what you say about that, Mr. Faris? He's put himself above Allah. Come on, make your justifications. Do it now or in the next life. You sell out. Okay, I'm going to carry on because he's going to go to Aqidah. So Aqidah is this, Graves, but not Mazrui, what he says. You sell out. Carry on.
All this that the ulama historically been talking about, they're like, no, that's too technical. We don't want that. It's a waste of time. Like, what do you want? Politics. We want rulership, and we'll get to that. I'll explain to you what exactly do they think of Aqidah. What is their Aqidah to them? But in any case, the Aqidah that we know normal Muslims know, they don't know that. And they don't agree with that, and they don't like it. The founder himself, Hassan al Bana, was a Sufi. He was raised in the Hisafi way. And the least bid'ah that they have is they dance in mosques. The least bid'ah. They start dancing in mosques and all that stuff. And they believe in wahdat al-wujud, that Allah and the world is one. They dance in mosques, supplication to the graves, ibadat al-qubur, ila akhirih. This is al-Hisafi way. So he was raised within that, and he was always with them. And he mentioned in his diaries and his books that he would attend their meetings and their events and all these things. Right. And what do they think of Tawheed, the names and attributes of Allah? Like I said, they don't prioritize Tawheed. They think that this will divide the Muslims. Asli. They don't talk about it because they say this is too technical, and many people have different aqidas and different tawheeds and different interpretation of tawheed. So let's not talk about it because it's going to divide them, and we don't want to divide anyone. Now is the chance, or now is the time for recruiting. Just gather as much as possible of people to be part of us. Okay, what to do? What's their manhaj? Manhaj is different. The approach, the methodology, how they understand Islam. طبعا Hassan al Bana was highly influenced by Abu al Mawdudi. Abu al Mawdudi, as we all know, Indian, who went to Pakistan, and he created this. He brought back the idea and the concept of pragmatism and logic, and I said this. I made a whole video about his way and his philosophy in Islam. That everything is pragmatic in Islam. There's no spirituality. There's no oneness of Allah in worshiping, fulfilling Allah's obligation that we have to submit to Allah through acts of worship. This is the whole purpose of our worship, is that we worship Allah. He says, no, it's not the worship. Worship of Allah is that you apply the ruling of Allah in your life. Sharia law only. This is Tawheed, nothing else. And they were very much influenced by that concept. And they mentioned this. Hassan al Banna mentioned al-Mawdudi many times, and also Sayyid Qutb, which I'll get to inshaAllah. He also mentioned this, that they are very much influenced by the writings of al-Mawdudi and Muhammad Abdu, who is also influenced by al-Mawdudi. And they have this, they call it al-Qa'idah al-Dhahabiyya.
Muhammad Abdu died long ago before Mawdudi Aslan. Even I think before Mawdudi was born or something, or Mawdudi was a kid. So this is he's mixing East and West. We said Muhammad Abdu is Sheikh al-Azhar is another school. It's not the Hakimiyya school, anything else. It's more like classical scholars, and he was head the Azhar. And some people accuse him of issues related to that he's more like closer to Madkhali and Jami, submission to the ruler, even the rule of Kufr and things like that. is really an utter donkey. He doesn't even check history, just the basic historic facts. That's it. And secondly, I don't think that al-Banna is influenced by al-Mawdudi. Does not seem to be true. Nor is al-Banna is the one who really expressed Hakimiyya in exact terms. Because Mawdudi high days and his writing is essentially in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe not in the 20s. So Hassan al Bana established his movement late 20s of the last century. So there's no way the things have been translated available in Arabic to him. And I'm almost sure that he does not know how to read Urdu or things like that. I don't think he reads any foreign language, maybe a bit of English, but unlikely. Even Turkish, I don't think he maybe a bit of Turkish, because Turkish was an important language until that time for the collapse of Sultanate Uthmaniyya. So this is all mixed up. The one who is, people would claim has been influenced by Abu Ra'al al-Mawdudi, which is a good influence by them, because Abu Ra'al developed really deep thoughts about that. The only one who is really maybe influenced and made it a little bit more precise and advanced to it is Sayyid Qutb. Yeah, Sayyid Qutb definitely did read Abu Ra'al al-Mawdudi. Sayyid Qutb is much later. He started writing and doing things in the Al-Quran in the 50s. And the books of Mawdudi were already translated in Arabic, and so that's okay. But not al-Banna. Al-Banna is already dead by 47 or 48 or something, assassinated by the government of the Quraish. So that's all is mixed up history, which is not relevant, but he's trying to connect this with Abu Ra'al al-Mawdudi.
He's trying to build a narrative. You know, like, for example, if you were to discredit someone.
Yeah, but this narrative won't work this way. I think the Emirates are better off to get someone who is more sharper and more eloquent than this donkey.
Faris, run. If they, you know, they might do a bone saw on you. You know, research better. So, you know, asylum, whatever. You're not very good. Go back to CrossFit. That's what he's famous for. Okay, I'll carry on.
Golden rule. And Ibn Uthaymeen said, لا, هذه القاعدة الخشبية وليست الذهبية. It is the wooden rule. Yani it's nonsense. They say, let's unite on what we agree on and pardon one another on what we disagree on. طبعا, literally, yani, when you say it like that generally, okay, yeah, it can mean right, but they don't mean the branched matters, the يعني fiqh matters that we dispute. يعني مثلا اللحية طولها قبضة, no, not قبضة, long, يعني فروع. والله المالكية, they don't do قبض in salah, they do that. No problem, this we can disagree on. لا, they don't talk about that. They talk about أصول الإسلام. أصول الإسلام.
What's أصول الإسلام? Let's say
your stance towards the Sahaba. Takfir, bid'ah, shirk, all this. They say this, we don't want to divide, and let's pardon each other with this. Allahu Akbar. Then what's left? طيب دليل ذلك, look at their members and their heads and their committees. They have different parts of sects in Islam all together united in this group. This statement is extremely problematic. What do we unite on if you don't have the usul? And their manhaj is batini. They are a batini sect. Firqa batiniya. Batiniya means what? They show something and they hide something. Batin means...
So this is irony. He's talking about batiniya when the entire intelligence services who he serves are like that. But yeah, this whole thing about sect. So he's saying about Sahabi, and he's talking about...
But what he declared Aqidah is, most of it is not Aqidah, but they declared Aqidah to play that, pull the sword of Aqidah. First of all, the word Aqidah is definitely not a Sharia, but it's an invention. It's a bid'ah by itself. Why? Because we know from this Hadith Jibreel, but also the Quran. The Quran used the term Muslim, use Islam, use Ihsan, use Iman, never use Aqidah, and use sometimes in certain places, in a certain context, Yaqeen. جحدوا بها واستيقنتها أنفسهم. They rejected it publicly, although their hearts were convinced. Yaqeen. They were convinced, they had certitude internally that these signs they saw from Musa, that's the talking about the people of Pharaoh, is true. It's really a sign, but publicly said, no, this is all witchcraft. Or internally, they knew this is not. It's not wizardry, not just taghut, not making you, not illusion. It's not he is not an illusionist. He's not a magician. He's something else. That was yaqeen in their heart. So there's yaqeen. And also some hadith say, man qala la ilaha illallah muqinan biha qalbuhu, who said la ilaha illallah with yaqeen in his heart, with real conviction, dakhala al-jannah, and things like that. Despite all the comments on these hadith and so on, which been abused also by many Muslims and bravery and so on, to justify negligence of kaba'ir and other things to a catastrophic level. Almost opening the door of Kufr for the people claiming, khalas, we say la ilaha illallah with conviction. How do you have passed the bridge? Which is again not true, which contradicts the Quran. So this, but that's not our issue today. So this the one you say word aqidat, you should smell a rat. Why use that? What's what iman? Say no, we don't mean iman. Something else. Iman is clearly described in the hadith of Jibreel, and also in the Quran. The Quran says clearly about her. Possibly, and the only thing is sorted out in the hadith extra, separated from the iman of Allah, separated because it's a main issue in itself, and the just in the Quran in various places because it's a complex issue. It was not giving under one title in the Quran, but the hadith seem to be summarizing it. Is that when Jibreel came, say, tell me what's Islam, was openly, was classify someone as a Muslim publicly, without necessarily meaning a mu'min who will go into paradise, but publicly. See, Tashhad la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, that's public pronunciation. One Rasulullah, Salah, Zakat, so the 5 pillars, so-called pillars. Actually, there are more important pillars not mentioned in this hadith, because they relate usually to the public or to the community, which we discussed in the book of Tawheed. By the way, the first volume is also translated and available in Amazon and as a PDF. Maybe we'll put the link for the PDF and also the link for Amazon. That's number one. Secondly, so it's like mal iman. Now, he's not asking about the iman, about conviction and not conviction and doubting. And is it holding something to be more probable or with bordering on certitude or certitude, not about conviction, but about what the topics and the area which iman relates to. Because we're talking about something which Allah requires from the creation. We're not talking about firmly believing that there's a city called Shanghai here, China. That's not iman. Or there's a conviction. You know that by Tawatur, there's a Shanghai, which is one of the biggest cities in the world. Thus, we know with certitude, based on Tawatur, we have seen the picture. You can travel there, you see it by yourself if you want. So you can, but this has not to do with iman and kufr. And if you deny it, the same with the earth. Is it flat or round? We know it's round by certainty, but some donkeys believe it's still flat. Okay. Does not undermine their iman and kufr, just show that the mind is having, they have a sick mind, sick mentality or something like that. But what is count you as a believer or kafir? And say, تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله وباليوم الآخر. And I'm saying that that's in the Quran mentioned this way. من كفر بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر فقد ضل ضلالا بعيدا. That's mentioned in the Quran in this. And the Prophet added, وبالقدر خيره وشره من الله تعالى. Why he sorted that out? Because the issue of qadar, the core point which the Sayyid Allah stressed by adding that as number 6, is that whatever you think is evil, maybe it's not evil, but what you think is evil in the system of the universe is not from another creator, it's from Allah. القدر خيره وشره من تعالى. The system as it is, all of it's created and proportioned and designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no evil deity called Ahriman. There is no dark force and good force. There's none. This is nonsense. It's nonsense. It's only one necessary existing divine being. That's the meaning of qadar. That's what should be believed in. Not that there is the predestination or not predestination. These are other issues. It's other issues. But who is the creator, which is what the people call evil, even if it is not evil or if it is really evil. To whom it goes originally in creation and allowing to come in the universe is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody else did it. Nobody is fighting against Allah. There is some kind of demiurge or a satanic entity fighting and defeating Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, it doesn't happen this way. That's the essential part. That's it. None where is that about Sahaba. There's nowhere thinks about Sahaba. Or those meaning believing in Malaika. Are they from right and single? Maybe. That's not the relevant. The relevant is that they are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of them are messenger. Some of them is this and that. And they are not neither the sons nor the daughter of Allah. That's the most important thing. Malaika is creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do certain function in the universe, including carrying messages and so on. What they are, we don't need to bother about that very much. And all the speculation about their nature is secondary. And most of it is metaphorical anyway. So that's the one. The books are revealed, that Allah has revealed books. One of them we have in our hand is the Quran. Others are essentially extant. Bits and pieces are there mixed with rubbish and fabrication and embellishment and so on. There's no Torah in our hand, no pure Torah. Unless we find the Ark of Covenant, and then we find part of the Torah, the tablets. But the Torah is not only the tablets, there are also scrolls of Musa, Sahih Ibrahim or Musa, for example. What we believe that has been revealed to Musa, certain books. One of it is the tablets, because the Quran says, كتبنا في الألواح موعظة من كل شيء. Al-Alwah is not the whole Torah, part of the Torah. Maybe it's all the Torah. Maybe the scrolls are just a copy of the Alwah. I doubt, because the Alwah is just few tablets. The Jews claim it is 2 tablets, 5 command in the first and 5 in the other one. Is unlikely, because the Quran uses always, Arabic language has a form of dual. Nowhere it said lawhayn. It's Alwah. So it's 3 and upwards, minimum. So it can't be lawhayn. So even this narration is questionable by the Jews. But how many tablets are there? We don't know. And is it all what has revealed to Musa, or something else has revealed and he wrote it with his own wording, like similar to our Sunnah? He seems to have written Suhuf Ibrahim or Musa. He has Suhuf. So most of it is extant. So these are believing in the books, that Allah has revealed books to them, and had been written by the prophets or by their secretaries or by their scribes, like the book of Jeremiah, the book of Isaiah, etc. So, and there's also fabrication. The book of Isaiah is composed of 3 books, actually. Only up to Isaiah, I think 32 is maybe Isaiah, and even that's embellished. The other ones is complete fabrication and wrong attribution, is so-called pseudo-epigraph, for example. But the principle, Allah has revealed books. وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ is clear what's it. Day of Judgment. And Al-Qadr Khair as explained. Where is the status of Sahaba? Nowhere is there. It's not part of Iman in that sense. What the Quran says is that the Sabiqul Awwalun are having a special tazkiyah. That's all. A special praise. That's it. All other people are essentially equal. And those who embraced faith and fought and spent money before the conquest of Mecca are superior, all of them, without exception, over those who did the same after Mecca, provided the first one are sincere and so on, because the Quran said, higher rank than the other one, the one who sincerely do that. The munafiq before and after are irrelevant. They don't under the ayah. So who is munafiq? That's an issue of history. We may assert and some are munafiq or not. So the kalam of the Sahaba, and this is nonsense. Even the aqidah of Sahaba is nonsensical, contradicts the Quran clearly. So that's what else is there which claim to be aqidah? So the reason they use the word aqidah to run away from Iman and have books called aqidah tahawiyya, aqidah wasatiyya, aqidah afritiyya, aqidah bullshitiyya. That's all nonsense. That's their invention, their fabrication. And what is in the Quran is more than enough. Well, the Quran is much more than enough. And there's some details in the Quran. It's part of Iman in the sense that, but it's not part required that you tell the people about it. For example, we know from the Quran for a fact that the wife of the prime minister of Egypt or whatever, or the chief of the guards or whatever, the Aziz, it's called the Quran Aziz, the mighty one of Egypt, his wife tried to seduce Yusuf. Anyone reading that will believe that firmly because he believes the Quran from Allah. We don't need to put that as a point of aqidah. We don't need to sit on the door of the mosque. Do you believe that the wife of the Aziz seduced Yusuf or not? We are not required to tell the people. But you can live all your life and die without knowing that, because you are not Arabic and you don't read the Surah of Yusuf or hear it just like a music, you hear it in the masjid in Tarawih. You don't need that. But you need to know that Allah is comprehensive in knowledge. You need to know that Allah comprehensive in power. That you need to know. يعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير. That we tell the people. You have to know that. يعلم أن القدر خيره وشره بالله تعالى. That everything in the universe is created or enacted by Allah's permission. There's no way it can otherwise. There's no other deity, no other authority in the universe, neither creatively nor legislatively. He's the absolute sovereign. That's it. Details, don't worry about that. No need.
Ultimately, what's the objective? The objective here is red herrings. Look over there, look over there, look over there. Don't look at this massive aircraft carrier. Don't look that we're putting the land bridge to support the Zionists. Don't look that the IDF are coming here for rest and recuperation. Don't look that we are funding the Islamophobes in the UK. Don't look at riba banking. That's what it is. That's their Islam. That's their Aqidah. Aqidah is anything that is other than that, because they're munafiqeen. Anyways, we'll carry on. There's a lot to get through, Sheikh, because there's a lot.
It's repeating, but we keep repeating. No problem.
I can always, for the listener, I can always edit some of it.
It's important to put these fundamental things. So the moment they talk about Aqidah, you know that they are faking something. The moment they come and when they say Tawheed, Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah, Asma' Sifat, that is there also the bid'ah. There's nothing called Tawheed is one Tawheed. إني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة ذكري. That's what we told to Musa, and this is more than enough. I am Allah. There's no deity beside me at all, including no Supreme Lord, because Supreme Lord, the one who intrinsically is a deity. فاعبدني, submit to me, acknowledge my divinity and my absolute sovereignty. And establish prayer to remember me, because the human mind cannot have Allah present continuously in his mind. That's not possible for the finite mind. So you get busy with life, you go to the market, you don't remember anything, and then at Dhuhr time, it's Salah time, let me pray. Then you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get a boost, a spiritual boost, until Asr, another spiritual boost, and so on. Around the day, you have 3 or 5 prayers, depending upon whatever revelation you are following, and so on. And that's it, Salah. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ ذِكْرًا. Salah is not ibadah. Salah is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And establishing a Salah is based on the command, on the sovereignty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. إِنِّي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ ذِكْرِي. أعبدني, acknowledge that the only sovereign and the deity am I, and the only one who acts in the universe, and the only one who can legislate. That's a code. That's fundamental. A footnote to keep yourself on that level as much as possible as a finite human being is prayer. So remember me. You don't lose contact with me forever by just running away all your life, 60 years without mentioning me. Every day you get a boost with the connection with Allah. So you're connected to your spiritual origin. That's it. Simple, straightforward. No Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah, Asma' Sifat, all this BS. That's BS. These people are jokers. They're playing games with the people's mind by these constructs which do not exist. They are not in Quran, not in Sunnah. It's pure bid'ah. Again, go to the book of Tawheed. And luckily we have now the second part. I think so the third book is out. Yeah. Number 3 volume is out.
Also, Sheikh,
1, 2, and 3 is just out.
The other thing to bear in mind is, I mean, he later on he's already previously said that as well, but he undermines Hakimiyya, because otherwise a human will make a construct to understand certain concepts. We can appreciate that, but even that definition, they've taken it as qati and then ignoring Hakimiyya, which later on. This is why I'm very keen to go through, because there's so much. This donkey has basically handed us an arrow, a bow and arrow, with an entire quiver of arrows to shoot himself in the face with. And, we'll oblige. Inshallah, I'll carry on.
It means what? They show something and they hide something. Batin means internal. Yani their internal is different than their external. You cannot, they'll say something, but inside is something else. Just like the da'wah. We call for da'wah, we got nothing to do with politics. They became a gang members with weapons and killing people and assassination, just like the mafia. Hey, wallahi, they're worse than the mafia.
Ironically,
So they have this.
ironically, their whole system is a mafia system. The UAE, the sons of degenerates, the Al Saud raised the final
rapid force in
the rapists,
yeah, they are killing and raping people by the tons. That's okay for Faris and Himar.
Because they didn't do that. They didn't. Yes, scum.
Okay, it's clear.
Scum. But yeah, we'll carry on because look, this is hujjah for him. This is let the public see how much of a degenerate this man is and the regime he serves.